Hello everyone, welcome to The Light Within. This would be my very first video on discussing a topic for the purpose of this channel. And this channel is to kind of tackle parts of our lives or parts of the challenges that we faced and trying to find some sort of solutions, ideas, inspirations in order to help us deal with the challenges that we are faced with every day in our personal lives. And then it could include stuff that's coming at us externally, stuff that's going on with us internally, and just finding a way to handle everything that we are going through in order to come to some good decisions about what steps to take next. And some things will, and as we go through this journey, some things will become real obvious. It's like, well, yeah, we could be going, duh, because it's so blatantly obvious. And other things are more hidden and more subtle. It's things of like, we didn't really think about that. So, or some things is just, it wasn't even because we're so focused on the challenges that we are facing that sometimes we may not see an answer or a solution because we are so withdrawn within ourselves and we haven't seen what is available around us. So I think when it comes to this first reading, I think that our first subject should be choice. This card is from the Dreams of Gaia card deck. It is a beautiful deck. It's one of my actual personal favorites. I use this deck more for myself because you know what? I go through a lot of challenges. So here you go. Just so you can see it. Dreams of Gaia. It's a beautiful deck. It has some really gorgeous imagery in there, and it's got a lot of personal. It deals with personal emotions, personal how you're approaching things, and the very first card in this deck is called Choice, and I think we should discuss that. What is our choices? What is a choice? I mean, how does this affect us going forward in anything that we do? So, got my new little kitty cats. They're so cute. Anyways, so let us kind of begin, and I am going to use my Thelema deck. And we're going to leave this card out because it is the significator card for this reading. This is my Thelema deck. And the reason why I want to use this deck is because it is a softer deck. It is it's a lot, the imagery is more soft. It is more, imaginative and flowing. So you'll see as we go into it, and hopefully it gives some help. So I'm going to try to use different decks that I have so we can get to see and get to know different decks. Anyways, but what is our choice? We are dealt with choices on a daily basis. We are, in my view, we have free will. We are born with free will. Our essence is born that gives us and grants us free will. And free will means we are making choices all the time. Whether you decide to do something, that's a choice. Even if you do nothing, that too is a choice. So we are making choices all day long, all the time. Sometimes our choices are very conscious and sometimes they're very unconscious, meaning that we respond to some way because that is just subconsciously how we are responding to it. But we're still making choices. It's when we become conscious about all the decisions that we have to make is when we start learning to gain control of all the challenges that we face. And actually, is when you start to understand how the flows of energy work, and by your choices that determine how the energies goes, means that you are learning to use the energies to your best advantage, and it will catapult you forward and actually starting to guide, and you are able to guide the energies into what you want. So that means you're gaining control. And that's really what we want, because it's no fun feeling completely out of control and you have no other recourses. So this is about learning to gain control by your choices. And we can make choices. I mean, you've got your faiths, you got your thoughts, you have the doors, the choices. Some choices will lead to really positive things, and some choices will lead to some sorrowful things. And we have the tree of life here with the Celtic symbol. We have the snake with the light. You have the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, the universe is there for us to learn, to understand. And by our choices, we grow in understanding. Or we can choose to not get involved and just hide away. But, the whole idea is not to hole up and try to avoid things. It's trying to go forward and start to confront things. By our choices, we'll start developing through, we'll start giving us the power to move through. So once you understand where your choices are, then we'll understand how we continually step forward in our lives. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a spread, and it's called the Tree of Life, because that is pretty much, that's what we are. I mean, it's the Tree of Life. We have roots, we have our growths, we have our leaves, we have things that are born, and we have things that die away in our lives. And I'm talking about not physical beings and stuff. I'm just talking about events, situations. And as we grow in our thing, we become the trunk. The trunk absorbs and holds all of our wisdom, so of everything we've learned since growing from a young little twig moving forward. So let us begin, and I will tell you, and let's see what the cards will say about our choices and how we're going to move forward. So I'm going to do this spread and see what it tells us. All right. Okay, hopefully I can get this camera to get as many of these cards in, because this is a really big spread. All right. So let's cut the deck. All right. So this is our significator card. This is the card that we're going to be discussing. We're going to be discussing choices. The choices that we make in order to help us forward in our lives, and how they work for us and work against us sometimes, and how we can recognize that by our choices we can be doing repetitive motions trying to expect a different answer, or we can be seeing different. If we recognize it, we can make a different choice and turn the energy into a different direction. So, all right. So the very first card that sits on top of all of us is the Page of Pentacles. Okay? Look at this card. The Page of Pentacles is a learning card. It is, we are students in this journey of life. It sits on top of us. This is what we are. It doesn't matter how wise or sage a person is, or how young and immature a person is. We're still all children learning through this cycle of life, and it will always continue. And when we understand that we're always in a learning process, things become more, you start viewing things through a more childlike lens. It's like the wonderment, the mystery, the amazingness of life, and all the things that goes with it, and the drive and the desire to learn. And so the page is very youthful energy. It's always going forward, and it doesn't matter how old or young physically you are, you're still constantly in a page state. You're constantly in a learning state. And do you learn from your mistakes? Do you not, or do we just repeat our mistakes? A page is a youth, and we do expect our youth to make mistakes on their journey as we're learning to move through life. So by our choices, it will facilitate our learning process. So the next card is the positive, the obligations or the duties of our positions. So the obligations and the duties is the Eight of Swords. Seems like a very scary sword, a scary image, And the thing is that when we come into this life, and we begin our journey of life, there are going to be so many times when we feel like that we're trapped, or we're at a dead end, or we're feeling enclosed or suffocated. But these are opportunities for us to grow. So when you're looking at the Eight of Swords, and sometimes we don't even see it. I mean, all we see is the swords around us. All we see is the strife, the struggles. We see only the hardships. But we need to be able to take off the blindfold, take off any bindings that are binding us, and take a look around and get beyond the swords, get beyond the challenges to see the opportunities that come through it. So sometimes we end up learning that what our challenges that we go through give us knowledge and understanding and helps us grow. So in light, when you immediately see this card, you see it as a negative. But if you look at it as life lessons, what have you learned? Sometimes we learn the most by when we fail. And we learn the most, and we learn how to get back up. We learn how to get moving forward again. We have so much learning by the actions, by when we fail. So this would be a good card when it comes to understanding our page journey and the choices that we're going to make that's going to affect our lives. There are some negative challenges that goes in, and we have the Knight of Wands, which would be a negative. And usually it's like the charging forth of energies, the charging forth, when you get this burst of speed, because this is a fire energy. The wands are very fiery. It's like, it's creative. It forces us forward. It thrusts us forward, and we want to go. And sometimes we can get thrust forward, and we can move so fast that we didn't plan. And we can find ourselves in a situation where we are struggling, or we thought something was supposed to go a certain way and it didn't turn out that way because we didn't give it too much thought. We kind of, we forgot a few things. So, and those are the mistakes and challenges. So we can have this amazing energy, and we can have this amazing spurts of creativity, and it just sparks us and drives us forward. And usually that is a really great energy to have. There's no doubt about it. There's nothing negative about it. But the part that can be is that if we put no thought behind it, we can end up going, oops, what did we just do? What did we just do? And and we're not always aware of the consequences of us when we burst out forward, when we go forward because we're so excited. And sometimes we haven't thought about the consequences of our actions. We haven't thought about, how is what I'm going to do, is it going to affect the people around us? How is it going to affect me? I mean, what is the logical progression of where we are? We haven't slowed down to give it some thought, and it could lead us to consequences that we weren't expecting because we didn't think through it so easily. So the Knight of Wands energy is not a negative energy, but us being able, when we burst forward without sometimes fully taking in all the consequences or all the rewards or all the stuff, not evaluating our situation, we could end up landing ourselves in a situation we didn't want because we didn't really think too far through it. And a lot of times it's so obvious after the fact when you get to the end and you're just like, oh, I should not have done that. And you're like, and then sometimes there's that little thing inside of you that goes, but I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I did it anyway. So that little nagging thing. So the Knight energy is not bad, but it's the rushing forward without thought, without considering, can sometimes land us in a situation where we're just like, yeah, we made a mistake. So it feels very opposite here. I mean, it feels like this should be the positive card, but this should be the negative card. But these are the lessons of our choices. How hardship helps us, and how rushing into things without forethought, without thinking through the consequences, can land us in a negative state. So there's that balance. Okay, so we have the benefits. Okay, so the benefits of these choices. The benefits is when we start really making the choices, when we start understanding the power of our choice and how it moves us through, we become more like the Queen of Wands. We are emotionally we become more emotionally satisfied. We become more emotionally in control. We're more in control of our emotions. So bad things that happen to us, not so bad. We can handle it. We can handle it emotionally. So this is us growing and understanding. So the benefits of going through the stages of life allows us to become emotionally in control and be able to help us forward. The emotional, the Queen of Cups on her really positive side, she is a very empathic. So when you're going through your own challenges in life by the choices that you make, you become more empathic towards other people's struggles, because you're going through it, they're going through it, we're all going through these challenges, and as we're learning from them, we're learning in our wisdom. Our tree is growing, the wisdom is collecting, and we become more empathetic towards other people and their plights and stuff like that. So it's a very beautiful energy to have when you're feeling emotionally in control of your own emotions, and no matter what happens to you. Have you ever sat there and saw somebody, when we experience loss and you see people, you're amazed. Some people can just get up and shrug it off, and then they turn around and they help other people, and they're like, okay, come on, let's get up, let's get going, let's try it again. I mean, it's a loss, it's no big deal. These people have probably had those experiences, and now they're sharing it forward. They understand the the desolation we can feel at loss. So these people become very empathetic, So it's the benefits. By our choices and our learning creates a more emotionally stable person. We become more emotionally stable. So sometimes the drawbacks is this, we're constantly in pages, right? We're the page energy. We're constantly learning. We can make mistakes as we go. We can exceed. We're the students of life. So sometimes when we can get so focused in one area, because the Knight of Pentacles is very, they get very focused. They're very focused. They're very driven. They move forward. They're methodical. You can get so laserly focused that you're missing on everything that's going on around you. So don't be so overly laser focused. Don't be so obsessive. That life is more than just your work. Life is more than just the projects you pour yourselves into. Don't forget that, we're complex beings. We're supposed to have complex experiences. We are learning the whole mysteries of life and how things are working physically. We need to not stay so laser focused. So we need to be able to remember everything is around us. And we got to remember that we have more than our work. Life is more than just working to death. Life is about experiencing, about enjoying, about discovery. So don't be so laser focused. Okay, so we have here a possible future. Well, this isn't a possible future. This is kind of where we are. By our choices, we are definitely on this journey. And it can be very difficult, an emotional journey. And sometimes we feel like we're alone on this journey. Here's all the rough waters. We're trying to move through life. We're trying to get through calmer waters. We're trying to get to the sunset and get out of the clouds of the storm in our lives. We are always in this constant move and this constant journey. And this is not a possible outcome. This is hard. This is the outcome, but it's not a static outcome. It is a constant flow. We are constantly moving. We're constantly experiencing. We're constantly being the Page of Pentacles, because we are constantly students. So the journey can be in emotion. The journey can be very rough sometimes. It's never all smooth sailing. Sometimes we move into rough waters. Sometimes we have a difficult emotional journey, but it's by our choices that's going to get us to that calmer water, to that clear sky, the sun, the riding off to the sunset. I mean, we're going to, it's by our work and by our understanding. So I'm going to move this up a little bit because we are definitely, I'm going to take the the choice card out and put it up here so we can keep it. This is a pretty big spread. So, moving on here. Okay. So, we have what is emotionally, how are we dealing with things emotionally? So, the benefits is we come into this as we're learning, we become more emotionally grounded, we become more emotionally in control, and by the very nature of the wisdom that we gained, we become more empathetic towards others and the challenges that they face, because you know what, we did it too. So challenges is being, it's like you want to be more methodical so you don't burst out and going and make decisions that you have not thought through the consequences, but you don't want to get so laser focused in on something that you're missing out on everything else that's going on in your life. Okay? So the emotions is to fight, you know? This is the Five of Swords, and this is oftentimes referred to as the win at all costs card, but it's not, because if you really think about it, when we look at this particular card, the guy has 2 swords up, he's got 1 sword down, there's 2 swords left behind. So when you really think about it, he pick and choose your battles. Okay? Some battles are worth fighting for. Some battles are worth put your swords down and listen. And other battles is just like, just walk away from them, because, you know, they're not worth being in your energy, right? So this is pick and choose your battles wisely, because some are really definitely worth fighting for. Others are, you need to listen more than fight, because the swords down means listening. And the 2 swords down on the ground and he's not touching him, that means, you know, there's some battles you shouldn't even be fighting. Just walk away from it. So choose your battles. So emotionally, you need to be able to recognize that. And when you start to gain control of your emotions, you begin to realize it's like, yes, some battles definitely need your attention. Some battles are worth fighting for, you know. Other battles is just egos, just clashing and fighting. And it's like, okay, those battles you may want to just walk away. Because you're not going to win no matter what. Just walk away, you know. And other battles could be disagreements. It's like you're disagreeing. It could be with your significant other. It could be with your children. It could be with, you know, your parents. It could be anything. You're disagreeing, but that is asking you to put your sword down and listen. Maybe listen to the other person's point of view to understand. So emotionally, we have to bring ourselves in check of the Queen, just to be in control of our emotions so that we can make the proper choices in order to determine what battles we should be taking on. All right. So this is the logics, right? The logical side of us. This is when we're analyzing and thinking. I mean, this is our emotions going. This is our minds. This is the reasoning within it. So this is the reasoning behind things. And this is the Fool journey. All right. And I talk about the Fool a lot, because the Fool journey is actually one of my more favorite cards, because the Fool is about taking what you've learned and you have this instinct inside you. Something is inside of you asking you to take on a journey, to go in a certain way, to do something. And you could be, you know, avoiding that thing, and then you're just feeling more and more depressed. But, you know, it's about the logical side is telling you sometimes all you need to do is take the first step. And then you may realize it's not as bad as you originally thought, you know? And sometimes, you know, it will launch you into something completely new in some completely new area where you're just like, wow, I never even considered this before. The Fool's journey is about discovery. And it's not about, do you succeed? Do you fail? It's about discovery. Can we make foolish decisions? Absolutely. That's just part of the page's journey. That's part of us as being, you know, perpetual learners in this game of life. We are perpetual learners. We are perpetual students. We are always students. I don't care how new you feel to the game of life or how many times you felt like you've lived this life and you feel, you know, you've been around the block a million times. Okay. But you're still learning. You're still learning and still discovering. So the Fool's journey is about that life. It is about that journey we take. The focus shouldn't be on whether we succeed or whether we fail. It should be the journey. The journey is what's going to be the most important, and the most important part of our life cycles. So the attitude about ourselves. So here's the attitude about ourselves. Sometimes we can feel like we need to just stand our ground, and absolutely, you do need to stand your grounds. You need to stand your grounds by you can't choose to let other people define who you are. You have to define who you are yourself. Like, she's standing the doors, right? Everything behind that door is all of her experiences, is all of her knowledge. It's all of everything that she's been experiencing. And people can sometimes come in front, like media, when you're watching the news and stuff, and not the news, just regular commercials. I mean, they define like what beauty is, and you're like, okay, that's not. So they're trying to define who you are, but you need to stand your ground. You are who you are. Don't let people define who you are. And sometimes you need to defend your position. Okay? We're all journeying. So this is the attitude of ourselves. And sometimes on the negative side of this is that we could be so set in our ideas, we're not opening ourselves up to the listening of the page, right? Because we are the page. We are learners, so we should be listening. Sometimes we need to lay our swords down, pick our battles. So we need to not be so rigid that we don't hear other people. But the fire energy is telling us we have to keep our identity. Don't let other people define who we are. Okay? So by our choices, we can choose to not accept what society expects us to believe. We can go inside into ourselves, and pretty much we know we are who we are. We're all individuals. We're all on this journey in life. We're all in this together. So how others can see us, right? Others can see us is constantly in motion, right? We're constantly in motion. So either you're a person who's constantly doing something, run. One place to another place, to another place, to another place. Or you can be a person who's always, the mind is constantly in motion, or they're constantly creative. I mean, we are creative beings, I mean, look around you. If you just look around you, it shows exactly who we are. We are creative beings. We're constantly creating. I mean, look, we've built cars, we've built roadways, airplanes, buildings. We are creative beings. We're always discovering new medical ways to help each other. We're always creative beings. I mean, yes, there's some people that end up taking advantage of that, but those are another discussion. So we are creative beings. So by our choices, we'll create this life, this tree of life. This is our tree of life. So I think I'm going to probably, this was a really big spread. And I think we will be getting more into choices. We'll be getting more, and this kind of gives us an understanding of who we are as people, as who we are. And gives us a launching point. And by our choices will allow us to grow. And we will grow. Because we are, there's no way, no matter what you do in life, you're making a choice. Even if you choose to do nothing, if you do nothing, that's still a choice. We have no choice but to make a choice. So what will you choose? And every single moment that you do things, it's flanked by choices. Are we doing our choices subconsciously, meaning that we're not aware of that we're making these choices, or are we doing these things consciously? And those are the things we'll explore on the journey of learning to gain control of our lives and gain control of the directions our lives are going in, so that we can go where we want to go. So I hope this has helped you. And I hope to see you soon on the next video. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.